Welcome back to the Reimagining Motion Sessions. Today we've gathered a team of AVL's finest to shed light on the fascinating realm of software-defined vehicles. As the landscape of automotive and technology rapidly evolves, AVL remains at the forefront, driving innovation and addressing the challenges of software development. We'll be delving deep into the intricacies of developing reliable, secure, and efficient software for modern vehicles. The experts from AVL will share their insights on the current state of software development practices, AVL's role in supporting OEMs, and the future outlook in this dynamic field. So it is with great pleasure that I can introduce you to our distinguished panelists from AVL. I'll start with you, Dominique Louarn-Pioch. She's Segment Manager for Software and Controls Processes, Methods, and Tools. What a big job there. Thank you for coming. Wolfgang Puntigam, he's Global Business Unit Manager for Integrated and Open Development Platforms. And Gianluca Vitale, last but not least, Global Business Segment Manager for Virtualization and Smart Calibration. So I feel like I have a lot of deep knowledge here on software-defined vehicles. But I mean, thinking about just my lifetime, just a decade or two ago, having a car that is driven by a computer was a complete, fantasy. This was not something that we thought was going to happen. And now it's part of almost every single part of driving. So how is AVL addressing these challenges? Of course, we have expectations from the market, but of course, developing these kind of automobiles is changing constantly. So is it just that people want a smartphone on wheels, or what are your challenges in developing this? Maybe Wolfgang, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I think in the beginning, the software-defined vehicle it's not about software, it's about people. It's about bringing really back the people back into the center, and formulate what does people want, what are the needs of people, and formulate that in functionality. Of course, at the end of the day, to transfer it in code, you need also hardware, well integrated, but at the core, it's really about the people, putting people back. And when I think about the new generations, also my children, I have 4 daughters, right? So what they are expecting from the car from the future, right? They would like to be online 24 hours. They would like to be TikTok, of course, Insta every time. They're only hunting for flames. So I think there must be an integral experience. So when they went into my car, they said, "Hey Dad, why I cannot connect my phone very well, right? Why can I not continue my Netflix series or so?" So the expectation will be really different. And I think that software-defined vehicle is first about anticipation. It's anticipation what people want, what new generations want. And then, of course, in the second step, how also AVL can contribute to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, expectation management is one thing, particularly when you have no influence over those expectations.
Yeah, sure.
So, Gianluca, tell, is this just simply, okay, we know how smart devices work, let's make the car smart? Like, is this a easy kind of transformation?
Yeah, of course you can imagine what is the answer. It's not easy.
Of course it's not easy. If it were easy, everybody would do it, right?
Yeah, but the fact is that actually in all our modern digital world, actually one of the coolest things we have, which is a vehicle and a car, we forgot actually that this should be part of the central digital experience, as Wolfgang was saying now. And the industry now is on that. And of course, we are undergoing a lot of challenges, electrification areas, but the software is the one that actually will push really the industry hard in changing profoundly in the organization, because ADAS and electrification are about technology, and software is about really changing the organizations, the ecosystem, the way they work, the interconnectivity also with the end user finally. We have lived a nice world where basically we were developing our products, but we didn't have an intimate contact with the end user of that product. And the whole industry now got the point that you have to know what your users are doing with the product you produce. You have to be in an intimate and frequent contact with them. You have basically to understand what they do, and based on that you have to develop your products in an agile way. And that's not easy at all, actually, because organizations are huge organizations which has been optimized for decades to work in an efficient manner, and now suddenly they have to learn to cope with this generation Wolfgang was saying. So it is clear what to do.
Yeah.
It is clear what to do. Technology-wise, it's clear what to do. But it's a huge change management process.
I think it's also, we're talking about how software itself defines the user experience, as you said, and you were talking about it being, really surrounded by people. Of course, the manufacturer in the end, of course, wants to serve the end user, of course, wants to serve their customer, but they're a little bit between the worlds, right? They're between the people that can supply them and their end user, and so they have to find their way. Dominique, I'd love to understand a little more about how AVL gets in there with the OEMs, looks at their processes and helps them develop software that's better.
I would like to say that currently I think also software-defined vehicle is really it will be a revolution in the way of working, because as Gianluca said before, we know how to develop software, but now with this transformation we have to be much faster with new methods. And here I think that AVL can support OEM in providing new innovative solution with via consulting or providing tool with really intelligent solution inside, helping really this software upgrade, which will come really frequently, what was not the case in the past, because we have to update the car to the user need. For that, we need also to think about how we have to improve our process and methods. Of course, we will have still to answer to all the standards. Safety, security will be a major issue in the future, and also other way of developing. And on the other side, we have the speed. And here we have to find the way. So agile, developing, DevOps are really keywords, how we have to orient our development methods.
So when we're talking about, in the future, we'll need to be even faster, even more, the feedback loops have to be even more efficient and these kind of things. Where are we really now? I mean, we're talking about the future still. We're talking about where we'd like to be or how we're helping OEMs develop in order to be ready for the future, future-proof, as they say. But when it comes to the status quo of software development, where does it really fall short? Where are the gaps between where it needs to be and where we are now? Maybe.
I think at the end, the recipe, the ingredients are here. So it's, I think we have a lot of knowledge how to develop vehicles, right? We have also, we in AVL have a lot of knowledge how to make software, because also today we have software tools, we're making embedded software, we have around 3,000 software developers, right? I think the key is now how we combine this. How we combine now the software know-how. So as I said, ingredient is the software know-how, it's the vehicle development know-how, and now it's to combine it and really to speed it up. And I think but as also Dominique said, right, it's a huge transformation for us. The ingredients are there, but the recipe, the clear recipe, is not clearly found, and there is a gap, right? And software is not new, right? Today we have maybe 100 ECUs in a vehicle with 100 lines of code already. That's also a huge challenge. But what happens now is, today, the complexity of the vehicle comes out of the different configurations, primarily hardware configurations. When you buy a car, you can be mostly sure that's a unique car, because with the color you choose, with it's your car, right? It's really personalized. But this personalization in the future, this complexity is now transferred to software. So the personalization, the individuality, is really defined now by the software. And that's, I think, the huge challenge where we have to cope with.
And this is also a huge leap then for the OEMs.
Exactly.
When you're speaking with them and saying how to...
Exactly.
Sorry.
Gianluca, you wanted to?
No, Wolfgang is describing this complexity, and coming back to your question, you can imagine where we are. We are at the beginning of a journey, actually, and because we have developed, when we say we as AVL, but also our customers, we had in the center the hardware as a product. And now imagine suddenly a complete organization putting in the center software.
Yeah, wow.
We treated software like hardware actually in the past, because everything we have done with software in the car was because there was a certain component or subsystem that required to be controlled and managed. But we never thought in terms of software as the ecosystem experience for the end user. So this is a huge difference, really, also from the organization point of view. It's like twisting an organization upside down, and it takes really a lot of time. We are at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, the change for the end user isn't half as big, not even a fraction of the size of the change for the developers.
Exactly, because I think also that with this software-centric vehicle, we will have really to provide even more unique cars, because the end user can select what he wants and personalize his car, which feature he wants to have, what maybe the neighbor didn't have. And here we have really to find also from our side, AVL solution, how we can help in moving in this direction.
Yeah, I think that's also one of AVL's kind of key selling points as well, is that they take on a role in the software development with the OEMs together. Maybe you could describe what makes AVL different there. What is that? Why is that a USP?
I would say there is one USP at AVL that is always valid, is that because we do think also, we know what are the problems. We are not just simply suppliers of tooling, for example, where it's difficult to really have the complete knowledge of how our customers are working, because we also develop vehicles and software. We know where are the problems. So from this understanding, we develop also the best methodologies and tooling. So when we face with customers, of course, they can have, for example, urgency about how can I do today a certain software development, can you help me? And this is the engineering part we have with a really worldwide setup of competencies. On the other side, they may struggle, even if they have good ideas, to transform the organization. And this has multiple aspects. For example, which technologies do I need? What are the best tooling? Because, today there are plenty of tools. It's not like, you are the first offering something. The problem is, how do you integrate all that? What technology I should use? And then they realize also that they do not have the proper organization to fulfill these new agile processes. So we can also help, and we help customer through the projects, through the tooling, through the consulting, understanding how they change the roles inside the organization to fulfill these requirements.
It's interesting, because usually when consultants come in like that and say, oh, you have to change all this, they haven't actually done it themselves, but you have done it yourselves.
I would say we don't do properly consulting at the end. But
that's what I mean. You have done it.
we do these kinds of consulting, which is like, you guys in the daily life, what happens? Yeah, that's basically.
I think that's just as important, if not more so. So we're talking about stuff that could happen in the next few years, but also the next decade or two. Of course, we have a lot of sustainability aspects that work into this. Also, the development has to do with the hardware, of course, when it comes to sustainability, but software can help with that because of data and artificial intelligence and ways of predicting things. So we have a lot of directions that this whole thing can go. I'd love to hear from the three of you, and maybe Dominique, you want to start us out. What would be your wish or your vision for the future of software-defined vehicles? Where could this journey take us?
I believe when we are speaking about vision, there is two aspects. There is maybe the global one, and I believe that we will be surrounding from cars connected with quite a lot of artificial intelligence. But nevertheless, I think the safety security aspect will be really important, electrified car. And my wish is that really AVL, or in the process and method tool area, we will take this challenge with us, and we are able to provide really innovative solutions, supporting solutions for the OEM or for also a tier one, in order to really be present in this big challenge, what is SDV, and I believe it will take us for several years.
Yeah, so surely, but it'll all seem like no time at all after it's all happened. Wolfgang, what do you think?
Yeah, as you said, there are many dimensions to answer that, right? But I think one thing is really the vision is to get people back into the center, to provide technology that supports people, and it will not, I think, stop in the vehicle, right? It will become more integral part of our life. Let me highlight one aspect: sustainability, right? If the vehicle communicates also with the infrastructure, maybe with your photovoltaic system at home or with the charging system, right? The vehicle becomes a little bit, maybe it's a wrong expression, but a little bit your body, right? Your body also knows what you want, right? Your body, you don't have to explain. And if you go in the vehicle, it knows, it learns about your behavior. Yeah, at the end of the day, to support a better life for you, to give you also back time to concentrate more on your things.
You must have great buddies. I mean, I would call that a butler in my case. But my friends don't look out for me like my butler does. No. So Gianluca, this interconnectivity, all of these things, where do you see this bringing us? Where do you see this taking us in the future?
So I think we have three main revolutions. It's electrification, it's autonomous driving or assisted driving, and now software-defined vehicle. And I think the first two ones are limited by the infrastructure and the capability of having powerful infrastructure to support. It can be the charging infrastructure or the V2X and whatever. And it will take time. And I think in the future, it will be an heterogeneous landscape. We will not have only autonomous driving vehicles and only electric vehicle. It will be very blended and mixtures of combinations. But on software-defined vehicle, the limiting factor here is the capability of organizations to change. It's only that. But once we have this managed, actually there will be in 10 years none of the vehicles we see on the road that are not connected, that are not frequently updated, that are not integrated with our smartphone ecosystem. This will be the standard in 10 years. And in this vision, because developing a car software-centered means also delivering a complete product which is safe and secure, means also considering the integration with all the hardware part. I think that AVL will play a key role because we have all the competencies. We are not just simply a software supplier. We are a vehicle supplier. So we have the power of integrating software and hardware together. So I see really a bright future for us.
Well, as do I. And I also want to say thank you so much for talking to me today. I've learned a lot about software-defined vehicles, but also really, really interesting things about this complexity aspect. I wouldn't have thought about it in the sense of the end user that way. So we've heard now a lot about the not only the way that software-defined vehicles are going to influence our current manufacturing changes and the way organizations are built, but also how their processes work. It's also going to change the way we understand software development per se, much more integrated with hardware, much more integrated with the world around us and interconnectivity. So as the future, bright in front of us, is approaching, AVL is there by our side, making sure that our vehicles stay secure and accelerating the development process for their OEMs. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and I hope you join us for our next Reimagining Motion session.